Hi everyone, welcome back into another video. It's time to talk about Moto GP. Let's get straight into it. So I mentioned this a few times in the last couple of videos, the problems with Moto GP and how I think we could possibly solve them. I say we, it's not like I've got any influence over Dora and how this works, but from just a fan's perspective, I just think we all have a very similar kind of look at it. We've all got a little bit of knowledge about how it works in terms of the way it's been organised, in terms of the way it's been policed and the rules have been written, but also just from a fan's point of view and people who ride motorbikes. We want to see it done in a certain way that's interesting and entertaining, but also makes the most of the fact that it's a prototype class and you want to see development. So let's have a little chat about the way that sort of should go, I think. But before we get stuck into that, let's talk about Macau last week. So the season finale of the road races, if you like, it's their last sort of hurrah and big party out there, nice weather, and just glad to see that it went off without any real major incidents for any of the riders, because although it can be taken a little bit, not lightly by them, it is meant to be a bit of a fun end of the season race, but it's still such a dangerous place and numerous people have had big crashes there, got hurt and worse. And so yeah, it's always a relief to get that one out of the way in a funny way of putting it, I know, but it's kind of, because it can be taken as a bit of a fun race and not too seriously, it almost feels like an extra shame when something bad happens there because it wasn't for any kind of massive glory, but you can still pay the ultimate price. So yeah, a couple of little slip-offs for the boys, but mainly incident-free for the bikes. And Macau's lost a little bit of something in the last, even in the last 5 years. You used to have all the top road races bar a couple would go, and then a few. If you go back even further, I'm going to go off again here, aren't I? But if you go back even further, remember we used to watch like the likes of Kevin Schwantz would turn up and race. There's no chance any of the Grand Prix riders are going to go and do it now. But you maybe get one or two World Superbike riders would go, and somebody outside of the world of road racing, because it's not a true road race, if you know what I mean. So, but the problem is now is you've got, if you look at the top 20 TT seeded riders, how many of them are going to Macau now? Like 4 or 5, maybe a few more. But obviously there's still some top lads going. It's still well represented by the road race like community, but and it takes nothing away from the lads who do it, because they're all top guys, top riders, you know, the real top riders. And a few who don't do the TT, who do Macau, who come from other worlds of road racing, but still want to compete there. So yeah, for me, just from a personal point of view, I look at the entry list and I think, oh, well, there's not as many of the top boys there who like to see, like McGuinness doesn't go anymore, and Rutter doesn't go, and Connor doesn't go, and I don't know if Michael Dunlop's ever gone, but yeah, you're missing quite a few of the top boys. So, not to take anything away from what they did, but it's just not the spectacle it used to be. And I think it loses a little bit from I'm just seeing it from a fan's perspective. It's not as interesting to watch as it used to be because of that depth of field. But yeah, I'm just happy it went off without too many incidents and no serious ones for the boys. So yeah, Macau, off to bed, season done. Party out there, boys, and we'll see you back in the UK for the start of the season. So let's get stuck into the MotoGP problem. We've got two major problems as far as I'm concerned with MotoGP as it stands right now. And it's going to be no secret that we all know that aero, all the aero they stick on these bikes now, and there's wings everywhere. There's wings on the front, trying to create downforce on the front end. There's wings on the belly pan and underneath, trying to create ground effect downforce. And then we have aero on the tail, which is also meant to create downforce, but also stability. And the actual intricate parts that make these aero pieces work are way above my pay grade. But we all have a general idea of how they work, or how they're meant to work, to ultimately extract a quicker lap time from the bikes. That's all they're trying to do, is make the bikes faster so they can win races, so they can celebrate another championship. And the European factories got a jump on this, mainly with the fact that they decided to go in a more radical route than the Japanese factories. And those initial couple of years of the aero, the Ducati, the Aprilia, the KTM, they looked like they'd been built with all of the aero in mind, and then figured out how to put an engine in it. Whereas the Japanese bikes, they still looked like the old bikes, the Hondas, the Yamahas, Suzuki's for a little bit before they pulled out, but they looked like the previous generation bikes, with aeros stuck on, and it was like an afterthought. We'll stick these bits on now because everyone else is, and we're going to have to if we want to keep up. But you're always behind. It's evened out a little bit now, and obviously Yamaha are going in a completely different direction with engine configuration now. So the one thing that's keeping me really interested in it for next year is Toprak, and he's taken a knife to a gunfight a little bit, but we know how good he is at fighting with a knife. So he's done it at World Superbikes where he's winning races, and he's definitely not on the best bike. If he was on a Ducati at World Superbikes, he'd be gone. So yeah, interesting to see how that all pans out. And obviously I'm going off here, I've got no script. I'm just talking off the top of my head, so just please bear with me. But the problem with the aero is, it's like, okay, you make the bikes faster, you make them more stable on the brakes, you make them easier to get on the power coming out of the corners. However you want to make your lap time faster with aero is fine, until it starts upsetting the air to a point where people can't ride close. And we all watch racing because we like to watch racing. We like to watch people on bikes trying to pass each other, trying to get ahead, make moves, and that's what racing is. And if you're sat in the stands and the difference between a 1:34 and a 1:30, you can't see it. You can't see the difference. So constantly trying to do a faster lap time with the help of all this aero just isn't important to the people who are paying the money to watch the races that make this whole thing work. And you have to be conscious of that when you're deciding where you go next. But the problem comes now. You look at the top speed at Mugello, and the bikes are going so fast down that straight. And there's been numerous incidents now where people are braking for turn one, but the bike that's chasing has to brake way earlier, because first of all, he has to anticipate the other bike's ability to brake. And if you leave it too late and your closing speed's greater than theirs, you're going to catch them up and hit them. But they've now got this problem that they don't have any aero helping them brake. So the bike behind has to brake earlier all the time, and it just creates this gap. You have to leave a gap to a point where you've now got some air to help you brake. And that's why you're seeing these bikes stay within 2 seconds of each other. And it's like, well, I can't close the gap because if I get any closer, I can't use the brake sufficiently. And then I'm going to have to fall off anyway. So it just creates these bikes, they race and race and race for the first couple of laps to just force a position. And then once they get into an order, like it used to be in Formula One, once they get into this order, they have to maintain this gap unless they're drastically faster and they can catch up and pass quickly. It just ends up being this stalemate. And the last few races have been a little bit better, but it's literally because Marquez is injured and not in it, and you don't really know who's going to win. But that race formation of let's race and bash each other to a point where the first couple of laps you don't quite have the tyre grip, and so you can take a few more gambles here and there and take massive gambles to try and get a position, because if you don't do it then, you haven't got a chance to do it for the rest of the race. And it's become so bad to watch. From a personal perspective, I don't even watch them live anymore. I just watch the highlights, and the highlights get shorter and shorter and shorter. We used to be like 7 or 8 minutes. Now they can get them down to 3 because it's a start, it's bashing around for a couple of laps, a couple of people slip off, we all form a formation. As long as no one else crashes, that's it, the race is over. And taking nothing away from Marquez, because he is obviously a step above everybody else right now, and he deserves his title. He deserves that massive gulf of points he had over everybody else. But with him not in it, it makes it more interesting. Imagine Toprak was on a Ducati World Superbikes and he was winning every race. If he wasn't in it, it'd be more interesting because you didn't know who else was going to win. But you almost need to put Marquez on an inferior bike to make it better. But yeah, that's the problem with aero. And how do you fix it? You ban it. You just get rid of it. And I know the regulation changes are coming in, and it's going to change that. And it really needs to change. But there's also another part of this that I don't see discussed very often, and it's a huge part of motorcycle racing in general, and it's a really good way of being able to bring things back to make the racing better. And I saw Ben Spies talk about it. This is a couple of years ago when the aero was starting to be a problem, and he's on a podcast, and obviously we know that Ben Spies knows everything there is to know about racing a motorbike, and that goes from superbikes up to Moto GP, and it's all to do with the tyres. And as anybody who rides a bike on the road or has ever raced a bike, one of the most important things we all know is tyres. It's about grip, it's about feel, it's about confidence. and it's about a performance limit that you either reach or you don't. The tires now are at a point where they're so good, it's not always possible to completely extract the best out of them on your bike on a day. And whoever does the best job of it, this is taking the aero out. Let's just forget about the aero. Let's just talk about extracting the absolute best from your tire. Whoever does the best job of that tends to do the best in the race. And what Ben Spies was saying is that if we can have a tire and we reduce its limit of grip, so that more teams and more people can get to the limit of the tire without having to spend millions or billions of pounds in development in aero to make the bike faster before you hit the limit of the tire. Bring the tire limit down, more people can reach it more affordably, and we can all have a closer, tighter race where it's more about racecraft rather than it is just extracting absolute performance out of a lap from your bike. And he came to this from, he talked about the fact that the way the racing's gone with the air and stuff, and he said the difference is when you see a wet race, because what happens is you might have a wet race on a wet tyre, and the track starts to dry out, and ultimately the grip changes each lap, but you've got the absolute maximum from the tyre, and the only thing that's making you go a little bit quicker or having to slow down is how much grip's left in the track, but you're extracting the absolute maximum from the tyre and track combination as it dries. And so what you see is people's ability to find grip here or there or do something a little bit different, and it creates a far more interesting scenario as a race than everyone who's just trying to get to the limit of a tyre that you can't really reach. And you can argue that that's how it should be. You should make the tyre grip out of reach for most people, and whoever does the best job of getting towards it deserves to win the race. And I agree with that. That kind of is how it should be. But in practice, when you practically put that on track, it doesn't create good racing. So you're artificially kind of bringing everyone back, and you could say that's not in the essence of it either, especially for prototype racing. You can look back and say that was always the case. It's dead easy to look back into the past, 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, going back to two-stroke days and just say, oh, it was better then because it was closer and tighter. But if you watch a lot of the highlights from back then, the races were very similar in that you had a few people who would break away, get away, or one person. And it's selective memory. This is what you have. The problem you have now is you're in a world where everything has to be instant gratification. Things have to be fast. I hear them talking about Formula One now, and they might actually end up scrapping the longer races because people don't want to sit around for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, waiting to see how these races unfold. They want fast-paced action. They want it now, and they want it quick. That's the way the world's gone. It's the way it's gone with everything you see on the internet. It's the way it's gone with TV. Everything's on demand. No one wants to sit through adverts. No one's got time for anything. So if I want to watch something, I want it now and I want it quick. And obviously Moto GP has embraced that with the sprint races, and people love that on a Saturday, and that's been positive. You know, if you had to pick now, you had to ask me, what do you want to watch? I'd rather watch the sprint race on a Saturday than the main race on a Sunday. I mean, ultimately, I want to see the longer races, but if they don't contain any entertainment, what's the point? There's no point in it. So the sprint races at least give them that chance to not care too much about the tyre, and just because although we're talking about reaching the limit of the tyre, you have to manage the heat and how much, and then that goes down to more to do with can't follow too close because you don't get the cool in, and you see people giving up places and stuff in the longer races because they're getting a warning about tyre pressures. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole, but the sprint race at least is that the first few laps of the main race is like the sprint race, but for 10 laps. Okay, the last few it settles down and sort of forms its order, but you're taking the majority of the race has got more action in it because a 10-lap race might have 6 laps of action, whereas if you've got a 25-lap race, you still get 6 laps of action and the rest of it's a bit crap. So yeah, there's that to think about, but you can't just have loads of sprint races. It has to be the longer form. It has to be, that's what it was, and that's kind of how it always should be. But you've got to balance that with people's willingness to sit there and watch it. And if there's nothing changing in the race, people aren't going to want to do it. So it has to be fixed. They have to do something to fix it. And hopefully with this new regs, they will. And obviously everything I'm talking about is true because it's happening, but it's also just my take on it. It's my opinion. It's just how I feel it's gone, how I feel it should be fixed or could be fixed. And it's not going to be the same opinion that everyone else has. It's not going to be necessarily what you think. You maybe think that it's completely correct. It's about development. It's about crazy thinking and radical ideas to make bikes go faster. The lap time should tumble every year because the progression of bike and tyre and rider just keeps getting quicker. And I am of that thought quite a lot of the time, but it can't be at the detriment to entertainment and racing, because if people don't want to watch it, there'll be nobody in the stands, there'll be nobody paying for their TV subscription to watch it on TV. And if people don't want to watch it and pay to watch it, which is where all the money comes from and where all the sponsors need to put their brand in front of them people, if there's no people there, it all just all dries up and it's not there. At the end of the day, it has to be fun to watch, because the people who watch it are the people who pay for it, and that's ultimately how it works. So hopefully they have an idea, they're going to fix it, and MotoGP will get back to some kind of something to look forward to again on a Sunday afternoon. I just love sitting down and watching motorbike racing on a Sunday. And obviously winter's here now and that's not going to happen. But to know that if BSB's on and MotoGP's on, it's not even a contest which one I'm watching, and it's not even World Superbikes. But when you have those weekends where there's no BSB, there's no World Superbike, there's only MotoGP, I'm just like, me. And I never thought I'd say that. Obviously, Moto3, Moto2, we haven't got a problem there. We haven't got a problem there, but we're never going to make MotoGP a one-make series in the same sort of way they are, with such tight regulations. And yeah, anyway, we'll leave that there. I could sit here and bang on about it for ages. It probably would have maybe been a better video if we'd had a few people to discuss the ideas and bounce off. But people have been asking me about it, about MotoGP, and loads of people got their own ideas about it, and welcome to comment. It's not me telling you what it should be, it's me just telling you what I think, and interested to see what everyone else thinks about it too, so let me know. And the final thing really is the new helmet. And if you watched my last video all about the helmets, and I'm talking about, I got a sneak preview of next year's and it looks absolutely mint. That's not the preview I saw. So I saw it in an official capacity with complete good faith that that's what it was. Obviously, I never told you the design, and I'm not going to in case they ever use it in the future. But if it pops up in the future, I'll say this is the one, you know. And but yeah, the new one, I'm not too sure about that. Like I've said before, they always look miles better in the flesh than they do in pictures. And we've had them before where you see the picture and you think, man, it looks all right. And when you get it, it looks great. And this will probably be the same. Definitely not the colours I go for. It looks a little bit like the 2012, I think it was, lid, with the that sort of goldy, with reddy kind of tinge to it. But yeah, I mean, listen, limited edition Arai, I love them all. It's going to be in the cabinet with the rest of them. It'll be lovely, and obviously I can't wait to get hold of it. But yeah, just a bit surprised it was different from what we were shown, but whoever makes these decisions has made them, and this is what we're going for. So yeah, here it is. Here's the picture of the new helmet, and yeah, what do you guys think to that? Do you think it's a good one? Would you buy it, or would you never even buy one of them? I don't know. So we'll leave it there. Just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody who's watched all the new content. Been loads and loads of views and comments on all the new stuff. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people are still watching this thinking it's all about being a TM, but obviously you can tell from the title and from the first video if you watched it, it's not. I'll still always cover some TM stuff in a capacity that I can, because I know a lot of people are still interested in that, and that's why anyone came here in the first place, really, especially if you came from the old channel. But the new stuff's been fun. I've really enjoyed making it. You guys seem to enjoy watching it, going from the numbers, loads of comments. It's not everyone's cup of tea. And if it's not, and you don't watch it, it's absolutely fine. Don't get too upset about it. I don't. You know, it's just a bit of fun. It's just some videos just for fun. But yeah, there'll be plenty more coming. Winter's here now. Nothing to talk about in terms of bikes. Until we get some news on some riders signing or some new bikes coming out or new teams, which we'll always talk about, because ultimately we're just fans of road racing, of racing in general, of TT. But yeah, I'll stop waffling on. Christmas is on its way. I should get some time to make some more videos. I'll try and keep them coming out for you as best I can. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.